Hello and welcome to Dacotah Speedway here in Mandan, North Dakota for live dirt track racing here on Midco Sports Network. A special night here for the legendary 50 where some of the best modified drivers in the region will race for the biggest purse in North Dakota history, over $10,000 on the line. Thanks so much for joining us. Brian, Shawn, Chris, Shirek, and Kelly Stewart are here with you tonight for this legendary event. And the legendary 50, Chris, there's something special about it. It was started just a few years ago, and it has really picked up steam, and you get a lot of drivers to pay attention when you're offering $10,000 to win.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was such a big event. There's drivers all over the country trying to win this $10,000 to win.
And we've learned a lot about some of the drivers that are here that have been on the Dacotah Modified Tour all week long. It started in Jamestown, went out to Williston, Dickinson, had to deal with a little bit of rain along the way. But overall, this has been a long week, but a fun week for a lot of these guys. 80 cars on average most nights.
Yeah, that's a lot of cars, a lot of guys trying to get that one elusive win. There's a lot of guys with big accolades, big wins here racing tonight. You know, 50,000 to win guys. There's 30,000 to win guys. There's guys that got second place that had 20,000 to win. There's a lot of good drivers in the pits tonight.
You've had a chance to get on this track at Dacotah Speedway in a sprint car, not a modified, but you kind of know how this track drives a little bit. It's a smaller track, but it is banked. But at the same time, this track will dry out a little bit as the night goes on, and that's where some of the skill really comes in.
Yeah, I had a chance to run out on the track before this, and it is hard. So I believe it will dry out a little bit with the wind we have, with the weather, with the heat, and the modified guys. They like that hard, dry track. I think it'll play perfect into their hands.
We also have a bunch of street stocks here as well. Should be a really fun show. A lot of heat races, B mains, and of course 33 cars will start the A feature tonight on the 50 laps to win for $10,000 here at Dacotah Speedway. Stay with us. Much more to come. We have our heat race action coming up after this timeout on Midco SN. Welcome back live at Dacotah Speedway in Mandan, North Dakota. Almost set for our first heat race on the street stock side. Let's go to the third member of our broadcast team. That is Kelly Stewart. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Brian. Well, the big number everyone's talking about tonight is, of course, the $10,000 to win for the legendary 50. But the other big number, 89 degrees here in Mandan as we speak. So how does that affect an event like this? Well, I was in the pits talking to some of the drivers. They said, first of all, you just got to stay cool. It's never going to be cool in a fire suit. You got to stay hydrated when you're not in your car. Get in front of a fan, get in the AC, do whatever you can. But I was actually talking to R.C. Whitwell. He's driving the 72 T-car tonight. He said the great thing about 99% of these mods is they're running on alcohol. Now, what that does, of course, not gas, so you think less flammable, but it keeps the engine a little bit cooler and also adds a little more power to the car. So that's a benefit. He also said drivers need to know how to cut their tires. If you cut them too much, your tires may have the chance to chunk up. If you cut them too little, they have the chance to blister. So it's all about controlling what you can control, but RC's used to this heat. He's from Tucson. Guys?
Thank you so much, Kelly. And yeah, it's always interesting to see how these guys tinker with their cars as they get into what is the equivalent of the 8th night of racing in a row. Let's take a look at our first street stock starting grid. Nathan Mesmer and Alan Frederick on the front row. Jason Berg and Barrett Berg in row 2 with Matt Brendel, Tanner Dorsch, Emily Mundahl, Jason Meidinger make up row 4 with Hunter Damgala and Shawn Volk making up the 5th row. 2 heats of street stocks here tonight. And we will have 10 cars in this first heat and then 9 to make up heat race number 2. Majority of the drivers from right here in Bismarck, a couple from Mandan as well. We do have one driver from way out in Aurora, Colorado. Scott Gardner will start in the inside of row 3 in the next heat race. So the pace car, or pace RV, as I should say, is coming off. And we are set to go for our first heat race. Dorsch and Kelly Homer are from Lincoln and Bismarck, North Dakota, respectively. 8 laps in length. Nice crowd on hand. Thanks for joining us. Brian, Shawn, Chris, Shirek back with you at Dacotah Speedway. Green flag is out for heat race number 1. Frederick had a really good start. Frederick out of Beulah, North Dakota. Mesmer out of Mott, North Dakota. The 46 replica car of Jason Berg. That reminds me, that's Cole Trickle's paint job from the movie Days of Thunder, is it not, Chris?
I was going to mention that same thing.
And here's a look at Frederick. out of Beulah. Matt Brendel from Bismarck started 5th. He is all the way up to 3rd, but now is getting passed by the 46 of Jason Berg on the outside. And Chris, they did do some work on the track. After the modifieds came out and qualified essentially what was hot laps, they took their best time out of the 2 laps they got and reseeded them into their heat race, and then they brought out the farm equipment to try to get a little more water in the track.
Yeah, with the weather we've been having, it's a little windy, it's very hot out. The track's not taking a lot of water, it's very hard. The track crews are doing whatever they can to get a little bit of moisture back into this track.
Baird Berg battling with the 35 of Matt Brendel for 5th place. Right now, the top 2 started on the front row, Mesmer and Frederick. Have pretty much been 1-2 all along, but making a push there on the outside, trying to gain some ground, is Jason Berg and the 46. We remain green. There's a look at the 5 of Alan Frederick. Just 2 laps remain, so the white flag will come out next time by for Frederick, who has led from the onset, and a bunch of 2nd place finishes in his heats. His only heat race victory back on May 12th in Dickinson. Finished 12th way back on June 30th out in Dickinson at Southwest Speedway. That was another stop on the Dacotah Modified Tour, but here trying to make a late push on the inside is the 27 of Mesmer. We'll see if Frederick can hold him off. Final turn. Mesmer keeps it nice and smooth. Checkered flag is out. And Alan Frederick is your heat winner in the Street Stocks heat race number 1. We'll step aside and be back with heat race number 2. You're watching live coverage of the legendary 50 here on Midco SN. Welcome back to Dacotah Speedway. Heat race number 2 starting grid. Mac Dosh and Kelly Homer, along with John Feist, Wyatt Rathwald, Scott Gardner. Talked about him from all the way out Colorado. Brad Cadmus, Jeff Hellman, and Zach Frederick in the 5F will make up your starting grid. Green flag is out. And it's Herner out to the quick lead, but they're really bunched up 3 wide going into turn 1, coming out of turn 2. Matt Dosh in the 21D has made a move on the inside, and he's going to try to slip by, but unable to do so. Getting together a little bit there with the 51 of John Feist was Dosh. The 96 of Wyatt Rathwald has moved up a couple of spots all the way up to 3rd. Ooh, 3 wide as they go for a battle for 3rd place. A little bit of banging around going in there. Jeff Hellman made a pretty good run in the middle on the groove, and now he'll slide to the high side. Kelly Herner continues to lead. Herner looking for his first heat race victory of the season. He has a handful of seconds, including one here at Dacotah Speedway back in early June. His best finish in the feature here, 6th, back on June 8th. Oh, and there's a car around in turn 2. The 51 got smashed into. I believe that was Brad Cadmus with some hard contact there as he got into John Feist. And that will bring out our first caution flag of the evening. Feist in the white 51. You see Feist just get a little bit loose and nowhere to go. Pretty good contact there, Chris, between the 76 and the 51.
Yeah, the 76 really had nowhere to go in that situation. It just, the 51 looped in front of him and nowhere to go, and the end result, made contact.
Now, Chris, you can kind of see the track starting to darken a little bit on the interior part of it, and that is a sign that maybe some rubber is starting to take down a little bit on the track already.
Yep, I was going to mention that the track is starting to, I call it blue over. It almost looks blue. The very bottom has a little bit of moisture. It's starting to blue up in the middle, and then the very top has a little bit of moisture. So it's starting to take rubber. That should be the fastest way around the track if they don't farm the track or rework up the track.
So Matt Dosh in the 21D and Kelly Herner in the 21. Green flag back out. Really good start that time for Jeff Hellman in the 54G. Hellman from right here in Mandan. Races at Dacotah Speedway's regular shows. He does have a heat race victory at Dickinson at Southwest Speedway back in late June. He did bring home a third place finish at Dacotah Speedway back on June 22nd. That's one of his best finishes of the season. So Hellman going to try to make a run here to possibly get that top spot away from Kelly Herner.
Yeah, Hellman's been charging the whole race and looks like he just got a bid for the lead here.
A little bit of a slide job there from the 54 and then right back the other way. How about the 21 of Herner sliding right back underneath? And now the 5 of Zach Frederick. The 5F is into the mix. Pretty good race here for the lead.
3 wide down the backstretch. Let's see how it turns out here.
Frederick really trying to hug that corner. White flag is out, and it's anybody's guess what's going to happen in this final lap. Herner continues to lead. Frederick now into second, but Hellman right there in the middle going to try to make some room for himself going into turn 3. Frederick really hugging that guardrail. He's got a good run coming off of turn 4, and Frederick comes all the way to take the heat race victory in the final turn from Herner, and the 54 of Jeff Hellman coming home third. Good race there in our second and final street stock heat. We're back with your A Modifieds after this on Midco SN. Back here live at Dacotah Speedway, and time now for our Modified Heat 1 starting grid. 6 heat races on the docket here tonight. 2B features and of course the 33-car A main, our final feature of the evening. RC Whitwell, Justin O'Brien, Kelly mentioned him just a moment ago. Whitwell from all the way down in Arizona making the trek up here. Mike Graceth and Cody Schlapp, along with Shawn Nostal and Ricky Thornton Jr. He's a very, very good competitor out here as well. Goes all over the country. Zach Olson, Robert Hellebust, and Brian Brennan with Robert Sigmund will make up your field here in heat race number 1. We talked about some of the drivers that were out here, and look at a guy like RC Whitwell. Finished second in points at the Dacotah Modified Tour, was very, very consistent. He won the Carl Tremor Classic, $10,000 to win. So this is a guy that has gone around to big races all over the country, starting on the pole here, and has won some big races and likes to compete in a lot of the big shows. And Chris, the one difference too we should mention with the modifieds, the big difference between an A mod and a B mod, the suspension, right? 4-point suspension on the A mod compared to 3 for the Bs.
Yep, you are correct there.
And what will that do necessarily? That's more like a dirt model suspension in the rear end, is it not?
Yeah, it gives the drivers a little bit more options to make a little more fine tuning. It also gives them more options to mess up on the suspension as well.
Sometimes you can outthink yourself a little bit with some of the suspensions.
Exactly. Sometimes it's easier is better. It's smarter.
Well, Whitwell leading. The 17 of Graceth has a good run going so far, and just like that, Ricky Thornton quickly moving up the grid as well on the low side of the track. Thornton won the Clash at the Creek in Wisconsin, $10,000 to win. Also a couple of years ago, won $20,000 to win out at the Batesville race. So that's had some big money experience as well. Right now running fourth, has some work to do. Griseth from Harwood, North Dakota. Good run for the 17 so far, running in second, on the verge of getting passed by Justin O'Brien from West Union, Iowa. Continue to sail around. Whitwell has led from the get-go. Now on the high side, trying to gain a little bit of ground is Thornton. 10 laps is the duration of these heat races.
10 laps gives the drivers a lot of time to, make their way up to the front if you start towards the back.
And they're already feathering the gas pedal a little bit in the turns, aren't they, Chris?
Yeah, it's with it being so dry, slick, and all these cars are on a spec tire. Everybody is on the same tire, so you don't get an advantage having a softer tire versus a harder tire. It's all the same, so everybody has to have that throttle control.
And the big part of that too, Chris, are some people may run an open motor or a crate motor, and a crate motor may be okay in these kind of conditions, right?
Yeah, with how dry it is, a crate motor is not a bad idea. It's less horsepower, but then you gain a 2-inch wicker bill on the back of the car, 2-inch spoiler. If you have an open engine, then you don't get that spoiler.
You were talking to Dustin Strand, who's run modifieds for a long time, and that spoiler may not make a huge difference on some of these cars.
Yeah, on a track this size, it's not going to make that big of a difference, especially on how dry the track is. If it was a big half mile, and it was a lot of moisture in the track, that wicker bill would play a big difference. But then again, the bigger motor would be a big difference as well.
So Thornton continues to try to work the car around to find the fastest lane possible. He has moved into third past Griseth. Right now the 27 of O'Brien continues into second. Meanwhile, R.C. Whitwell looks like he's well on his way to a heat race victory in a spot in the 50,000 to win main event a little bit later this evening. White flag is out for the 70-71 of Whitwell. Not sure if Thornton Jr. is going to have enough time to get around the 27 of O'Brien. Justin O'Brien from West Union holding on to that second spot. Griseth in fourth. And Zach Olson from Great Falls, Montana coming home fifth. Good run for him. And the rest of heat race number 1 is in the books. We'll be back with heat race number 2 from here at Dacotah Speedway after this. Here is your starting grid for heat race number 2. Eddie Bellick and Billy the Kid Kendall in the front row with Hank Berry and Kyle Brown in row 2. Miles Tomlinson and Josh Rogotsky in row 3 with Jeff Taylor and the legendary John Carell. Been racing a long time out of Jamestown in the 5C. Josh Jones and Dale Neitzel making out your final starting grid. Eddie Bellick in the E3B3 was second in the IMCA Duel in the Deserts. Another guy with some big race experience starting up front, but don't count out the young man, Billy the Kid Kendall in the 9 from Baxter, Minnesota. Took 25th at the Clash at the Creek in Wisconsin. Really the highlight of his career, and is a guy that continues to get better and better as he gets more laps in the car. Good race so far up front. Bellick all the way from Arvada, Colorado. Hank Berry in the 25 from Sidney, Montana. Kendall gets a little bit sideways, as does the 5J of Jeff Taylor. Jeff Taylor from Cave City, Arkansas, making the long trip up here to Mandan. Right now running third with Kyle Brown in the 21K from Madrid, Iowa, running fourth. Whoa, and some cars on their sides almost a little bit there on the high banking, Chris.
Yeah, they use up the whole track here. They're actually coming off the track and driving on the little bit of moisture they have off the track here.
Looks like Eddie Bellick is well on his way to picking up the heat race victory. He's found a groove he likes. Kendall continues to run in second. About a 1.5 second differential between first and second, and another second differential between Kendall and Taylor in third. And those three have really pulled away from the rest of the field. The 15 of Miles Tomlinson has made a nice run up the field, all the way from 6th now into 4th. Tomlinson from Turtle Lake, North Dakota, just up the road here in Bismarck. Ooh, and the two cars getting together there as Tomlinson and the 21 of Kyle Brown go nose to tail coming out of turn 4. Boy, meanwhile, Bellick has got this thing on cruise control right now. The lead is almost 3 seconds over Kendall. 2.65 on that last lap is the differential. Lap time for Bellick, 20.080 seconds. By far the fastest lap times that we have seen in this heat race. Kendall trying to hold steady. White flag coming out this time around for the 3, Eddie Bellick from Arvada, Colorado. He will certainly be a contender in the 50-lap main event coming up later tonight in that 3 car. Kendall continues to hold down second, with the 5J of Jeff Taylor in third. Miles Tomlinson remains in 4th, and it looks like that's how they will finish. Bellick, Kendall coming home second, Jeff Taylor third. Tomlinson will hold on to 4th. Kyle Brown and Hank Berry will be our top 6 in heat race number 2. We will step aside and be back with our 3rd heat race on the modified side here on Midco SN. Back for heat race number 3, and on the pole of this race, the number 62 of Hunter Marriott, the 3-time defending Dacotah Modified Tour champion. Did it again this year, was number 1 in points after a very strong showing here at Dacotah Speedway last night. Tim Ward on the outside of him with Ethan Dotson and Kelly Shirek in the 3X. Cody Peterson, Jarrett Carter also in this heat race with the 24B of Chris Bragg, Diane Awney, Alex Stanford, and Lucas the Nightmare Rodine in the number 19. Hunter Marriott has never won a $10,000 race. He has finished second and gotten $20,000 before. Talking to him earlier, he said when it's good, you have to embrace it because it doesn't always stay good. Marriott will take him to the green flag here in heat race number 3. Tim Ward, a regular out in Boone, Iowa, is actually going to take off right after this main event ends and gets back to Boone tomorrow morning so he can race tomorrow night in his weekly show. Some of these guys very committed. Marriott continues to lead, but Boone has found a pretty good groove. Or excuse me, Ward has found a pretty good groove. Ward from Boone, Iowa, on the outside. Kelly Shirek in the 3X up to 3rd. He will run the outside groove. And Ethan Dotson in the 175, right now running 4th. Dotson from way out in Bakersfield, California. So you talk about guys coming from a long way. Bakersfield is about as far away as anybody.
And he's probably used to this heat being he's from California. So this heat, he probably feels right at home.
Cody Peterson from just west on Interstate 94 down in Glendon, Minnesota, just across the border from Fargo. He currently runs 5th. Cody Peterson in the 45. Jarrett Carter in the 91 from Lisbon, North Dakota. Also in the hunt. He has taken over the 5th spot. So a pretty good battle there with the 45 of Peterson. Meanwhile, with 5 laps to go, Hunter Marriott is out in front of everybody and leads fairly comfortably here as he has done all week long. He just seems so comfortable. Everything seems to be working. He knows how to drive the track. And most importantly, Chris, he stays out of trouble in lap traffic. He just is a very talented driver.
Yeah, when it's working, it's working. And he looks smooth. He's easy on the throttle.
Tim Ward continues to roll in the 4W. Harcourt, Iowa. Well, you can see the cars that qualified the best have clearly shown they are the best because they have run away from the rest of the field in pretty much every heat race we've seen so far in the modifieds, Chris.
Yeah, and the closer you are to the front, I mean, it's easier. You don't have to pass as many cars, and it all comes down to your qualifying.
And a lot of these guys that have the skill on the dry slick, they don't mind this type of track condition, right? Because this kind of takes advantage of what they do well.
Yeah, when it's tacky and when there's a lot of moisture in the track, all you got to do is hit the gas and turn the car left. When it's dry like this, you need to be on and off the gas. It's almost like driving on ice. It's very easy to drive a car on, hot pavement. It's very tough to drive a car on ice.
Hunter Marriott rolls to the heat race victory. Tim Ward second, followed by Dotson and Shirek. We're back with heat race number 4 after this at Dacotah Speedway. About set for heat race number 4 on the modified starting line grid. Travis Perry, Jason Wall on the front row with Mark Dahl and Les McClanahan in the 29A. Stephen Pfeiffer, Sean Ritter, with Jerry Martin, Drew Christensen, and the 71S of Brent Schlafman making up your field for heat race number 4. And Jason Walla in the 27W. Jason the Big Show Walla, I believe, is what his nickname is. He won last night here at Dacotah Speedway, finished 3rd in the Dacotah Modified Tour points here in 2018. It's a guy that he really wants to try to get this race. This would be big for an in-state guy to win this Dacotah Modified Tour Legendary 50.
Yeah, and I was watching him during his time trials, and he knows how to run the bottom. He was putting that left front right on the guardrail, and he was getting a lot of moisture coming out of the bottom, coming out of the corners, and you can just see the car pulling away from other cars. And it shows he's on the front row, so he had a very good qualifying session.
Yeah, he's the current and defending IMCA National Points Champion. He's the first ever North Dakotan to hold that title, so that is certainly a big deal for him. And you saw he's 7th in the IMCA North Dakota standings currently, won last night's feature as we talked about. And this is a guy that's a legit contender to take home the $10,000 tonight.
Yeah, if anybody can do it, Walla's definitely a car that could park it in victory lane.
Well, first things first, he's got to get out of his heat race, and he has a good opportunity to do that here, starting on the inside of row 1.
And as you can see from the screen here, the very bottom of the track looks very, very black, very blue. The track is really drying out. There's a very small ring, about 1 car width, of dust, and then they just watered the track, so the very top actually has a lot of moisture in it right now.
Travis Perry on the outside of row 1 as Walla brings him to green coming out of turn 4. Mark Dahl into 3rd, Stephen Pfeiffer into 4th. Pfeiffer from Minot, McClanahan from Estevan, Saskatchewan, and Dahl from right down the road here, I-94 in Bismarck. About set to complete 1 circuit. And no surprise, Jason Walla is rolling in the 27W.
Pfeiffer's found something on the very bottom coming out of the corners.
Yeah, Pfeiffer all the way up to 2nd, and he's going to continue to follow that same line. He sees Walla on, and it seems to be working. And now the one of Mark Dahl has passed Travis Perry into 3rd. One guy way up on the cushion there is the 29 of Drew Christensen. He is right now running 5th, and he seems very comfortable staying up high on the high side of the speedway. finding just enough off the cushion there coming out of turn 4 and then lost a little bit of ground. And I think we have a caution flag. A car is over and around in turn number 2. Looks like Jerry Martin in the 2J. Martin making the trek all the way from Wyoming to get out here. So that is only the second caution we've had here in all of our heat races, which, I don't know, Chris, maybe a little surprising, but at the same point, maybe not as much, just because everybody's kind of running the same groove. We haven't seen a lot of passing and a lot of hard racing yet. We'll probably see that later in the 33-car main event.
Yeah, and especially in the B main when it's do or die time, you'll see a lot of guys, you know, making that last ditch effort. Right now, I mean, they've been racing for 8 straight days, and they've gotten a lot of seat time last week. So
the 71 of Brent Schlafman has just pulled into the pits, I saw just a moment ago. Not sure what's going on with the 71, but he is off the grid. 8 laps remain as Walla will take the field to green once again. Keep an eye on Pfeiffer. The Mandan native is running a strong race as well. Now Drew Christensen continues to run that high side of the track. Walla continues to lead. Christensen slingshots into 3rd place. Nice run for the 29, who started way back in 8th. Has moved all the way up to 3rd, and here comes the 1 of Mark Dahl now into 4th place as Perry slips back to 5th. Pfeiffer still content running low. I'll tell you what, look out for Christensen right on the back bumper of number 11.
Christensen's found something upstairs, and that's my favorite place to go. You have a lot of momentum up there.
Little bit sideways coming out of turn 4. Pfeiffer able to hold him off. Pfeiffer got a little bit sideways, and how about sneaking underneath? A little bit of a slide job there from the 29 of Christensen, but unable to hold it coming out of turn 2. And now 3 cars all fighting for the same real estate going down the back straightaway. Pretty good battle for second here, Chris.
Yeah, I think my B main prediction for the do or die time was a little premature.
Well, give Christensen credit. He has not been afraid to try a different line, and it's paid off for him.
With only about 4 laps to go, I wonder if he's got enough time to catch the leader.
I don't think so. Walla leads by 1.8 seconds left with 3 to go. Going to be tough.
Yeah, Walla's
not
got it
impossible, but he's got it on cruise control right now.
I was just going to mention that he's got a rhythm going right now.
This would be a great run for Christensen. His best finish this year is 16th up at Dacotah Speedway just a couple of days ago. Did get 3rd up at McLean County Speedway in Underwood, North Dakota in late June. Pfeiffer not giving it up so easily. The 11 continues to battle back. White flag is out, 1 to go. We'll see what happens here in the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Christensen not giving up on that high side. He leads Pfeiffer going into the final turn. Meanwhile, Wall is going to run away with it. Pfeiffer almost put a little slider on Christensen, but Christensen will hang on to 2nd, Pfeiffer 3rd, and Mark Dahl coming home 4th. Shawn Ritter in the 7SR is your 5th place finisher. 2 heat races remain here as we get ready for the legendary 50 at Dacotah Speedway. Well, welcome inside our makeshift broadcast booth here at Dacotah Speedway. We're enjoying the elements a little bit. That's okay. Brian, Shawn, Chris, Shirek, thanks so much for joining us here as we get set for the legendary 50. Pretty good heat racing action so far here, Chris.
Yeah, it's a lot of action. They had qualifying earlier, so the fast cars are up front, and they're kind of walking away with it right now.
Well, 1 car is off the pace, and that is the 21 of Aaron Turnbull. Maybe popped out of gear or something. Something's going on with the 21. He's going to keep it out there and see if he can't get things fired up. Tom Berry is your leader after one lap. Tom Berry from Medford, Oregon, making the long trek east. And now the 21 of Turnbull is going to pull off and into the pit. Something going on there with the white 21.
Another car who didn't have a very good start was Keller. He started on the pole. He fell back to fourth now.
Jeremy Keller in the 11K out of Mandan. Plenty of laps he's run here, has taken back the third possession momentarily over Travis Ulmer. Ulmer from also here in Mandan. Tom Berry is cooking in the 11X. Dylan Goplin in the 6D continues to roll in second, and Dylan from Fargo. And Keller now back into third. Has a pretty good fan cheering section just to the left of us down here, Chris. Now, whatever's going on with the 11X of Tom Berry, it's working. That car is smooth and running well. 2.5 second lead.
And pulling away.
Meanwhile, Keller has found something that's working. He's really gaining some ground now on Dylan Goplin. Just 0.4 of a second separates second and third. And now Keller is going to make it even closer. Keller now by just 0.005 trailing Goplin. It looks like he's going to take over second position heading out of turn 2. Ulmer trying to hang on to fourth, but he's got some pressure now. Marcus Tomlinson in the 5T moving up. Tomlinson from Turtle Lake started 8th.
Looks like as these races are wearing on, the top is starting to come in a little bit more and the bottom's going away. The faster cars are moving up to the top.
Keller won his heat in Jamestown at the Dacotah Modified Tour first stop last weekend. Finished 21st in the A main. He did get second here at Dacotah Speedway back on June 22nd. So runs a lot of races here, and we got a car off the pace and one off the berm. One turned around out in turns number 3 and 4. So that will bring out a caution. So kind of in turn 3, a car is backwards, and another one actually went over the track. You can't really see him right now, but there is another car that's trying to make his way back onto the track. I think that was Ulmer who was running 4th. I don't think either one of those drivers are very happy with one another. Lance Maury looks like he was the other car involved in that melee that brought out the caution. 2016 Legendary 50. Remember, 2017 was rained out. There was no rain date, so the event was not run. But in 2016, it was the largest IMCA Modified payout in North Dakota history until tonight. 87 drivers participated 2 years ago. Just 57 tonight, but you would guess that number will go up again next year.
Yeah, every year you would think it would just keep getting more and more. The more the purse keeps getting higher and higher, drivers are going to want to win that 10 grand plus. This restart's really going to help Keller. He's going to need a good start, and hopefully coming out of 2, he can have a little bit of a run.
Well, Tom Berry in the 11X is cruising. Tough to catch him. Berry goes high, Goplin goes low. Keller following Berry out of turn 2. How about Berry running the high side here?
Good race all the way back to 6th.
Lance Maury in the 19 SB has moved into 4th. Marcus Tomlinson hanging on to that 5th spot. And Spencer Wilson in the 75 right now in 6th. White flag is out for Berry. 1 lap to go. has about a second lead over Keller. Keller in that 11K has had a good drive to get himself in good position for later this evening. There will be 2 B mains on the modified side after the heat races are complete. Tom Berry from Medford, Oregon is your winner, followed by Mandan's Keller, Gopelin, Tomlinson, Wilson, and Mari making out your field here in heat race number 5. 1 heat race left here at Dacotah Speedway this evening. Back in a moment. There's a look at your starting grid for heat race number 6. And did you catch who is in the 12J? The name. Please tell me you saw the name on the 12J.
Celebrity tonight, and Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber. I'm pretty sure it's not that Justin Bieber. I'm sure he doesn't like to be called that either. Right now he runs in about 6th place. Meanwhile, Casey Arneson and Shawn Strand are your leaders. Strand has 12 track championships here at Dacotah Speedway, 14 overall. This guy has won a lot on this track over the years, and he's a guy to watch out for tonight. He's constantly in the top 10 in a lot of these Dacotah Classic Modified Tour events.
Yeah, anytime you can be in the top 10, be consistently up front, you have a shot at winning tonight.
And Arneson out in Fargo is also a very strong contender week to week as well in the 2A. Travis Olheiser running 3rd, and Marlon Seidler from Underwood, North Dakota in 4th. And Marlon has been around these parts for a while, and he's raced for a long time.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that on break here. Marlon's been around since I started racing. I was, 17, 18 years ago, and he was racing for, 10, 15 years then. So he's been around a long, long time.
Seidler running 3rd right now, as Strand continues to lead Arneson. Again, after this heat race, 2 B mains for modifieds, and then the A feature for the street stocks and the 50-lap main feature for the modifieds. And that will do it for our coverage from here at Dacotah Speedway tonight. But a lot of great racing remains. Thanks so much for joining us here on this Friday evening. Glad to be with you. Had a beautiful night, a little bit hot earlier in the day, but has really turned out to be a very pleasant evening.
Yes, it has, absolutely.
Now the 19 of Travis Olheiser trying to reel in Seidler ever so slowly. The 17X of Tommy Lee right now in 5th. It's the 6Z of Zach Doctor is in 6th. Doctor from Norwich, North Dakota. Tommy Lee from Granora, North Dakota. By the way, Justin Bieber is from Fairview, Montana. That's not from Canada, where a lot of the pop star people. That's all we need is a bunch of fans flocking here to Dacotah Speedway thinking that Justin Bieber is driving that car, the Justin Bieber. Two laps to go. Strand rolling. Arneson comfortably into 2nd, Seidler in 3rd, and Olheiser in 4th.
I noticed at the end of the straightaway here, they have a little radar gun. Looks like they're doing about 68 to 70 miles an hour.
White flag is out, 1 lap to go. And Shawn Strand, the 12-time track champion here at Dacotah Speedway, will be your victor here in heat race number 6. Arneson will come home 2nd. Seidler will hold off Olheiser for 3rd, and Tommy Lee and Zach Doctor will finish 5th and 6th, respectively. That will do it for your heat race action here tonight. Some cars are locked into the A, some are not. 33 cars will start, 11 rows of 3s. You want to talk about a traffic jam, Chris? You'll have it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the guy sitting in the 6th row on the inside, because you have nowhere to go. You're just waiting for guys to spread out in front of you.
A little bit of work getting done on the track before our B mains take place. There's the Big Tex water truck. Some farm equipment. We'll be back for your intermission after this. Back here at Dacotah Speedway in Mandan. Pretty good crowd on hand for the legendary 50. Work continues on the track. Water continues to get applied. They continue to put the sheep's foot out there and scrape things off and try to get a good surface here before the B mains begin for your modifieds here tonight. Brian, Shawn, Chris Shirek back with you. And Chris, we just had a really fun conversation off camera about, you talked about superstitions, about things you did in the car that you didn't realize you did until you had a GoPro, and then you're like, oh my gosh, look how much I do that. Take me through what you did in the race car before you took the green.
So I didn't realize how much I actually moved in the car and how much I thought I just drove. I just hands on the wheel, foot on the pedals, you know. My cousin Brandon Downey, he set up a GoPro and had it facing on me. I wanted to see what I did and just how much I worked. And I would tighten my belts every single caution. I'd tighten them up, never loosened them. So by the end, I was super tight. But I'd tighten my belts every time. I'd lift my visor. I'd mess with my eyes, wiping the sweat off my eyes. I'd be going into turn 3, and I'd still be messing with my eyes. I'd flip my visor down, grab the wheel, and go. I mean, it was crazy how much I moved around in the car. And these drivers are all probably doing the same thing. I think for me, it gave me something to do that wasn't thinking about the race.
Yeah.
Because it would mess with my mind just, well, if this guy goes high, then I got to go low. And it just gave me something else to do.
Well, it's interesting how you never know. It becomes second nature, and you don't realize you do it until you see yourself do it. It's funny how that works sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, the Dakota Modified Tour, it's over. It finished last night here in Mandan. We talked about Hunter Marriott, who received the trophy yet again for the 3rd straight year. And let's take a look at some of the standings from the Modified Tour this year. And these guys, again, when you look at the top 3, all feature winners, are all heat race winners here tonight. All these guys, very good, very consistent. Marriott by far the most consistent, but Whitwell won his heat race. Waller, we talked about him, how good he looks. Ricky Thornton Jr. is a guy that goes all over and races for big-time money. When you look at some of these drivers, they're from all different parts of the country, but there are some local guys as well that would love at a shot at this. And, you know, Billy Kendall's one of those guys in the number 9 car that finished in 2nd place. He finished 10th in the standings. And Kendall from Baxter, Minnesota, really starting to come into his own. But he's got some tough competition. We look at Tom Berry. He won his heat. Hetty Bellick, he won his heat. You kind of know who the top contenders are, and they're on this screen right here.
Yeah, and all it takes, you know, if a couple cars have some breaks, you know, engine problems or a tire goes down. I mean, there's so many mechanical problems that can happen to anybody. And then that opens the door up for some of these other drivers that may not be the fastest car, but if, you know, 3-4 of the top guys crash out or have problems, that opens the door for somebody else.
Well, unfortunately for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, they have a really good support class as well to go along with the modifieds, and that is the stock cars. And the standings came away with Elijah Zievenbergen coming out on top of Joe Flory and Dalton Flory by just a couple of points to take home the championship. And Angel Munoz, a guy that isn't from around here, he finished in 6th. Matt Speckman, Colin Heim. A lot of guys come for the stock car part of the Modified Tour because they pay pretty well, and it's also really, really good competition. They had almost 40 cars as a support class at almost all the stops here around North Dakota as well.
Yeah, it's really nice to have that support class that follows that group, you know, religiously. When you have a support class that only comes with, you know, 5 or 6 cars, it's not a race. It doesn't help pack the track, and it doesn't help bring other fans in. It's nice having a nice big support class like the stock cars.
Elijah Zievenbergen taking home the championship for the stock car standings on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. We're not that far away from our B mains taking place. There will be 2 B mains. The top cars from the B mains will move on to the 33 lap A main. And Chris, you and I were talking about it just briefly here in our last break, but when you put 33 of these cars on the track at once and you're starting them 3 on a side instead of 2.
3 wide, yes.
That creates a whole other dynamic that most race car fans or drivers have not seen. You're not used to doing that at any kind of race.
You're at the mercy of the guys in front of you. When you have side by side and a guy spins out in front of you, you can go low. If you're on the high side, you can go high. If you're in the middle and the guys on the outside of you don't do anything, you're hanging on. You can only hit the brakes. There's nowhere to turn, nowhere to do nothing. So you're almost along for the ride, sitting in the middle on this start. So it'll be very interesting. I've never seen a 3-wide start.
Yeah, and I know a lot of sprint car drivers, and even other drivers will do this, will hop on their four-wheelers and run out to the track to check to see exactly what's going on out there so they can tweak their cars impactfully. How much do you overthink some of that stuff when you go and see the track conditions?
A lot of this, like right now, just looking at the track, it's wet. It's very wet. So I would take my shoe and try to kick it. If you can kick the ground and all of a sudden it starts dimpling in a little bit, then you know the track's soft. It's going to keep that moisture. If I kick and it's hard as a rock, it's just on top. To me, that means it'll blow the snot off and it's going to go right back to dry. They're running the sheep's foot out there right now. To me, the track is still very, very hard. I think once this blows off, the top moisture blows off, it's going to go back to being dry. And right now, I think they're trying to do a little dust control, in my opinion.
That certainly is a possibility. Well, there are a lot of unsung heroes at the racetrack from week to week that really go unnoticed because we just take them for granted. One of those groups is the fire crew. They show up, they make sure everybody stays safe, they do their job. Chris, you have been pulled out by fire crews. I have seen fire crews do amazing work to keep drivers safe when things get very, very dangerous. And Kelly Stewart has more on that. Kelly?
Yes, I think unsung hero is the best way to describe this crew. This is a volunteer fire crew that works here at Dacotah Speedway, and I was talking to Byron Fiedler, one of the guys on the crew, a little bit before the races. I said, so when there's heat like this, do you guys take any extra precautions, any extra things to worry about? He says, well, our fire suits are hot, just like with the drivers. We got to make sure everyone is hydrated. We got to make sure the track is wet. But one interesting thing he said to me is they actually get to know these drivers as people, but also their race cars as well. They get to know what kind of escape tactics they have. Do they have an emergency exit roof? How can they get them out of the car if something happens? Of course, you hope nothing happens, but he said it's just kind of a group effort between the drivers and the fire crew to make sure everyone is as safe as possible. And also he mentioned this crew of volunteers, they're driving in from everywhere. Byron himself, he was from Mercer. People are driving in from Jamestown, Fargo. They're coming like 60 miles, even more than that, just to help out here at Dacotah Speedway. Safety is the name of the game, and everyone here is in good hands with them. Guys?
Hey, thank you so much, Kelly. And the important word I took from that was volunteer. They're not being paid to be here, Chris. At the end of the day, they're race fans too, and they like being a part of this action. They like being a part of what goes on here, and I think they take a lot of pride in what they do.
Yeah, and it's you become a family. I mean, you never, as a driver, you never want to be friends. You don't want to get to know the fire crew. That means you're spending a lot of time crashing or getting in trouble. But you do. The fire crew, they don't want to see you get hurt. They want to see you get back out there. They're as much of a fan of you as you are of them. You know, you hope they do their job. They hope, they never have to see you at the track. Because when they do help you, you got yourself in some trouble.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about getting yourself in a little bit of trouble. That's going to be the biggest key for a lot of these drivers once a main time comes around, Chris, right, is maybe not going for it in the first 10 laps. I think that's what a lot of the veterans learn. They know how to stay out of some of that trouble where maybe some of the more experienced guys feel like they have to get to the front right away.
Yeah, and it's, you have 50 laps. You have a lot of time to get to the front. You don't need to win it on the first lap. I've seen a lot of drivers try to win it on the first lap, and they wear it on the first lap. So you have a long time to get up front, and like you had mentioned, the experienced drivers wait till the 50th lap or wait till the end. First lap doesn't pay the 10 grand to win. The 49th lap doesn't pay 10 grand to win. It's the 50th that pays 10 grand to win.
And those guys seem to know when to stay patient and seem to know when they need to go for it. It's like, okay, I can't hold back any longer. I need to go. Is that just something you just feel?
Yep.
Or is that just something that you see happening as the race unfolds?
They always say running second is actually better than running in the lead. Because at second, you can see the track. The leader's always running the bottom, let's say. If you go to the top, you can see that you're falling back or you're getting closer. The leader has no clue how fast they're going because they have nobody to judge it off of. They have a lap car that they can judge it off, but you're already faster than them anyway. So second place is actually better because then they can almost gauge, okay, the top is faster. I'll wait, another 5 laps, jump to the top when there's 5 to go and steal this win from them.
And that's part of the fun of holding back. And it looks like some of the B-main cars are making their way on the track. We may have some action coming up here soon. Looks like track work is done. We'll step aside and be back with your B-mains here at Dacotah Speedway. Back here for B-main number 1 for the modifieds here tonight. 18 cars are locked into the A-main. This B-main will have 20 cars. B-main feature number 2 will have 19 cars. Mike Grieseth, Kaylee Shirek in row 1. Marcus Tomlinson and Zach Olson, 4 really good cars right there to start off this event. Jared Carter, Spencer Wilson in row 3. Shawn Nostal and Cody Peterson in 4. Lance Murray, Robert Hellebust will go from row 5. Dan Awney and Travis Ulmer in row 6, and Ulmer unfortunately got caught in that melee after running 4th in his heat race. Robert Sigmund and Alex Sanford, Brian Brennan, Aaron Turnbull, Travis Hagen, Chris Bragg, and Cody Schlapp, and Lucas the Nightmare Rodin will make up your 10th row. And you had talked about Aaron Turnbull in 21. Good driver, but he's got a long way to go to get a spot in tonight's feature.
Yes, he had some troubles in his heat. He pulled off early, so hopefully he's got that figured out. And he's a driver that can make it work. He can make it up to the front to get into a transfer position. All you got to do is get into the A. Once you're in the A, you got 50 laps to slice your way up to the front.
And you see Grieseth there in the 17 is getting pushed right now by one of the trucks. And Grieseth is scheduled to start on the pole of this race, so that is a terrible break for the 17, who is from Harwood, North Dakota, if he cannot go tonight. Was very good in his heat race. Came up a little bit short. There's the 45 of Cody Peterson. I guess it's 4,500. See the 2 little zeros there. How'd you pick the number for your car?
Well, I was number 3 in go-karts for Dale Earnhardt. And then, I was actually 3S because there was already a number 3. And then when I moved up to a different class, you couldn't have a letter. And that same guy was in that class. So I was like, well, can I be number 1? And they said, yeah, you can be number 1. So when I moved up to sprint cars, I kept the number 1. And then I took the K for Carriers Incorporated, where our race shop was for 15 years. So little homage to Wayne Anderson and Carriers Incorporated, 1K.
That's what the K came from. Now you see guys doing like EB3 or 4500 or 750S or whatever. You see so many different numbers. It's hard to tell exactly what some of them are these days. That's the 91 of Jared Carter from Lisbon, North Dakota. Getting ready for his starting spot. You have to figure Shirek is certainly going to be a factor in this, and the 3X. 34th year of racing, Kelly Shirek. He's run a long time with the USMTC mods, and that's really like the World of Outlaw tour for modifieds. Did that for a long time. He runs about 88 to 100 shows a year and just kind of chases these big money events. He did win the King of America $30,000 race in his history. So this is a guy that has some experience on the big stage. Shirek from Fertile, Iowa.
It doesn't look like Grieseth is able to
That's
breathe
too
fire
bad.
here.
That's a really tough break.
We're still under caution, so we're still giving him a little chance.
Looks like one lap to go. Next time by, they will be going green. So unless there's some sort of caution on the start, Greaseth night will be over. Tough break for the 17. Marcus Tomlinson will move into the front row with Shirek. Zach Olson, Carter, Wilson. And here we go with B-Main number 1. Shirek in the 3X. Slides it into turn number 1. Everybody getting through turns 1 and 2 clean for the moment. Couple cars getting look a little tight there, Chris, going into turn 3.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's setting up for that back half of the race.
Well, you had mentioned Turnbull. He's already up 5 spots and looking to take 2 more away in the 21. Shirek leads. Tomlinson second, about a half second back. Zach Olson, Jared Carter, Cody Peterson, your top 5. There's a look at the 5 of Tomlinson. Shirek looking really good right now. The 91 of Jared Carter is running a very strong race in the 91. And the 4Z of Zach Olson from Great Falls, Montana right now in 4th. There's a look at Shirek in the 3X. 10 laps to go. Shirek's lead now over 2 seconds. Still pretty good racing going on in the back of the pack. Turnbull is up 8 spots now. There's the speedometer. Right between 70 and 75 miles an hour.
Yeah, so that moisture they put in the track, it is helping get the cars up to speed a little bit.
Oh, we got a couple of cars together there coming out of turn 2. Everybody able to keep going. Turnbull, a little bit of a slide job. Boy, is this kid in the 21 really moving up. Started 19th, he's all the way up to 8th. And he just passed the 75 of Spencer Wilson. One car off the pace, that is Wilson in the 75. He'll pull it in. Boy, Shirek is cruising. 2.7 second lead. Another car off the pace. That's the 9H of Robert Hellebust, who is running in the middle of the pack, and something wrong with that machine. 4 laps to go. Zach Olson gaining a little bit of ground on Jared Carter now for 3rd. The 91 and the 4 have a pretty good battle going on. Shirek is rolling along as he'll get set to take the white flag next trip around. White flag is out for Shirek. Tomlinson second, the 91 of Carter third, the 4Z of Zach Olson fourth. Lance Murray in the 19 SB has moved all the way up to 5th place with the 45 of Cody Peterson, trying to take that spot back here in the final turn. Shirek is your winner. Tomlinson second. Drag race for third goes to Carter. Olson fourth, Murray fifth, Peterson and Turnbull along with Hagen come home 7th and 8th. That's B main number 1. We'll be back with B main number 2 after this. B main number 2, modified starting line grid. Miles Tomlinson, Mark Dahl on the front row with Kyle Brown and Travis Olheiser in row 2. Shawn Ritter, Zach Doctor in 3, Hank Berry, Les McClanahan in 4, with Tommy Lee and Josh Rogotsky making up row 5. Travis Berry, Justin Bieber, Chris's guy in row 6. Johnny C with Jerry Martin in row 7, Rusty Coleman, Josh Jones in row 8. And the rest of your starting grid. Three North Dakotans starting first, second, and third here in this B main feature event. We'll get set to take the green flag this time by. "15 laps, 19 cars taking the green flag." Tomlinson out to the early lead. Dahl right on his bumper. Now Dahl slingshots into the lead coming off of the outside. And Chris, you're still seeing moisture in the high and low groove.
Yeah, on the very bottom, there's a lot of moisture. The cars are kind of sliding through the middle, using momentum to kind of keep the cars going. And on the very, very top of the track, it looks like there's a little moisture, but nobody's utilizing that at the moment.
They continue to go 3 wide in the back of the pack, and we have a car around and spun out in turn number 2. And that will bring out the caution flag. Shawn Ritter in the 7SR, who started on the inside of row 3, will have to tag the tail end of the field now. Take another look at it. Just not a lot of room to maneuver. And if you lose it just a little bit, you're in trouble. Fortunately, no other cars involved there, Chris.
Yeah, he just got a little too high and underestimated the amount of moisture up there. Looks like there's a little more marbles up there than moisture, and he was thinking the other way around, and around came the back end. Looking like a lot of guys are running about a third of the way up, getting their left side into that moisture, and then letting the right side kind of free float in the dry slick area, and that's kind of getting them around the track the fastest at the moment. And that's tough too if you miss that. If you go a little too hot into the corner and you miss putting your left side into the moisture, then the whole car ends up into the dry slick and you have a chance to lose your position.
And all of a sudden you don't only drop just one spot, you drop 5, and that's where you get into trouble, where you're almost playing bumper cars, just kind of getting ponged around by a couple different guys.
Yeah, you almost force your way back into the bottom, back into the racing groove. Sometimes you got to be a little mean to get back into position. If you're too nice to guys, you're going to end up in 10th place pretty quick.
So we'll do it again, this time by. There's a look at Mark Dahl, your leader. Dahl out of Bismarck. Tomlinson out of Turtle Lake. Green flag is out. Here we go. Bunched up pretty good there in positions 8 through 10.
4 wide in the back of the pack, trying to get their way up to the front.
We have another car. That's the same car that just spun out a moment ago. Shawn Ritter around again. He's going to try to keep it moving. I don't see a yellow yet.
I believe they have a 2 cautions or out rule, so he's going to try to keep it going. Nope, looks like he just pulled it off.
And who knows, maybe something in that car too, Chris, is just not feeling right, where he just can't get it to straighten out. So we stay green. How about the 25 of Hank Berry making a move?
Making that top work.
Trying to slingshot around the 1 of Mark Dahl. Dahl holding him off for the moment. Now to the inside for Berry. Berry started 7th. He's out of Sidney, Montana. Boy, look at these two guys going back and forth.
Yeah, a little slide job and a crossover move.
Now Dahl will give the top a shot.
Sometimes you just got to tiptoe up on top, and it may take you a lap or 2 to get your momentum going, but once it's going, that is definitely the fastest way around the track.
The 21 of Kyle Brown and the 29A of Les McClanahan have also moved up. Whoa, they got 2 cars into each other in the back straightaway. A little bit of a slide job there from the 29A of Les McClanahan. And he took a little bit of a bump that time from Josh Rogotsky in the X car. Rogotsky now to the inside. Maybe try to pay him back here. Watch those 2 cars going into turn 3. Rogotsky on the inside, sliding up the racetrack and taking the spot away momentarily here from the 29 of McClanahan. Dahl continues to lead. Berry continues into 2nd place.
Looks like
6
pretty
laps
much
remain.
Yeah, looks like pretty much everybody is running up on top. The bottom has slowed down so much where the top has come in, and that is right now the fastest way around the track. And when that's the case, really the only way to pass somebody is either go to the bottom or try that slide job, get your momentum, try to drive as fast as you can down, let the car drift up right in front of the other car and make it right in front of the car you're trying to pass.
Well, Berry continuing to put the pressure on Dahl. 4 laps to go. Well, a big difference between 2nd and 3rd right now, 2.5 seconds. The leaders have really distanced themselves from 3rd place Kyle Brown, and Brown really all by his lonesome as well. His lead is almost 3 seconds over 4th place. Good run for Rogotsky. Started 10th, now up to 4th in that X car. 2 laps to go. White flag for the leaders next time around. Almost a little bit of a slide job that time by Hank Berry going into turn 2. Yellow flag is out. I think a car may have gone off the track in the back straightaway. We'll take a look. See what happened here, Chris. Looks like that 2 car maybe just got clipped a little bit on that left rear end and
yeah, a little bit of
shot
contact.
him off. Yep. That was Rusty Coleman.
I'm sure Rusty didn't know he was up there and tried to get up to the top of the track to apex it, to get back to the top to enter 3 and 4, and just didn't see him, and little contact, and all of a sudden he ends up off the track. We were talking earlier about the second place might not be a bad position to be in. I've been watching 25. Barry's been running the very top of 1 and 2, and everybody else is kind of running a half a groove lower. I'm wondering if he's setting him up to run so he doesn't show him that the very top until the very end of the race. So it'll be interesting to see how these last 3 laps play out.
They'll go green once again, next time by here at Dacotah Speedway. And it takes a little time to get used to viewing a race here. The track's so far away from the grandstands, Chris.
Yeah, it's built just like Mandan Speedway, Dacotah Speedway. It's just a little bit smaller, but it's essentially a mini Nodak.
So Dahl will bring him to green. Hitting out of turn 4, 3 laps to go. Kyle Brown had a really good start. There, you talked about it. Barry really went up high and got some momentum. We'll see if he can carry that down the back straightaway. Brown goes low. Barry kind of goes to the middle.
It'll be interesting to see if Barry tries to do a slide job or if he just stays up on top here.
Kind of bide his time, I think, going into the final couple of turns. 1 lap to go. White flag is out. Whoa! Barry got into contact. Holy cow. With Kyle Brown, that could have been disastrous for both drivers.
Yeah, and right now you would think that they're not going to try to do anything too spectacular.
Because they're locked into the A.
They're in the show.
Checkered is out. Your winner is Mark Dahl. Barry second. Brown just hung on to third over Rogotsky. And the 29 of McClanahan will finish 5th. Whoa, we got a couple cars spinning out there in turns 1 and 2 as they all jam on the brakes. So the field is set for the feature. So I think 7 cars from each Bay Main move on, correct? And then there's 1 provisional spot for the final 33rd position.
Yeah, and just heard over the announcer or the announcement that they're still not sure who's going to get that. So we'll let you guys know as soon as we find out.
And they should have that feature posted here relatively quickly. So we'll certainly keep you updated. We'll step aside. Only 2 features remain. We'll have them both for you coming up here on Midco Sports Network. Stay with us. Back here live at Dacotah Speedway in Mandan, North Dakota. More work getting done on the track. Trying to keep as much moisture on it as possible here, Chris, as we get set for our final 2 races of the evening.
Yeah, you can tell how much faster the cars were, how much better the cars were when you had a little moisture in the track. So as the sun's going down, the moisture's coming back out of the track. So hopefully, if they keep doing what they're doing here, it'll turn out to be a good feature race where it's 2 lanes and a lot of action, a lot of fast pace.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Brian. Shawn, Chris Shirek here with you from Dacotah Speedway live here in Mandan, North Dakota. And there's a pretty big race going on a little ways to the east of us out in Rossburg, Ohio at the Kings Royal, and one of the fastest speedways you'll find anywhere, Eldora Speedway. Donny Schatz has done very well there over the years. He's also done very well at Knoxville as well, and most recently was a Jackson Nationals champ.
Yeah.
Jody Norstead had a chance to sit down with him in his West Fargo shop not that long ago.
Pleased to be joined now by Donny Schatz, a 9-time World of Outlaws sprint car champion, inside Donny's shop, where a lot of this, you got cars in the background, you got new stuff like this buggy here that Donny has. Donny, you're back home for a stretch, racing out in Minot, racing out at River City Speedway. Back in your home state always has to be special. But I think about some of the younger drivers that you get to meet, especially North Dakota drivers. What is that like? What do you tell them about your experience when they're asking you?
Well, it's hard to tell anybody anything, about the experiences of racing with the World of Outlaws. Till you actually go do it, but it is pretty neat. I remember being back in those days when I was a kid, looked up to a lot of the outlaw guys. And, here we are today, 25 years later from racing, and still enjoy coming here, still have a great time with it, and still eat it up.
You get cheered for a lot when you're back home. Grand Forks, Minot, here in West Fargo. I'm curious to know what it's like, though, on the road. I mean, you've won so many races. You've won so many times. You're kind of like the New England Patriots, I guess, of sprint car racing. Do you have fans that kind of like to see you lose?
Oh, absolutely. That's what it's all about. You got some that are going to like you, some that are not going to like you. There's some that hate you. But at the end of the day, we're all winners when they come to the races, and we enjoy it. So if you make everybody like you, you're doing something wrong. I don't know anybody that can do that. So, it's a sport where sometimes success breeds hate, and it's just the nature of the beast, man. It doesn't deter me from doing anything. I still love doing it, and that's why I'm here. 2008
was the first year that you signed on with Tony Stewart Racing. It's been about 10 years, and Tony has retired since. The last 2 years, retired, right? What's that been like, maybe the last couple of years, how that relationship has evolved for you guys?
Yeah, this will actually be my 11th season with Tony. It's been a great road. Tony's the kind of person that don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, and that's kind of how he's run this race team. He's hired myself and the 3 guys that are on it. He lets us do our job. He doesn't step on toes. We don't see him all that often. He's now that he's retired from being a full-time NASCAR driver, he's still a NASCAR owner. He still owns his team, but he's more into his dirt aspirations and taking his side-by-side out on weekends and certain things. So he's enjoying life, and it still happens to be a lot at the racetrack.
For you, I mean, I'd imagine I want to look for different experiences. I want to look for different challenges. The last 2 years, you've hopped in one of those midget cars and ran at the Chili Bowl. What has that been like in Tulsa?
It's an incredible event. Midgets aren't really something a guy like me gets into. I've never been a very good non-wing racer. Midgets are so small, they're so confined. When you do have something happen, and it's not if, it's when, you're not very comfortable in them for crashing. We're very fortunate in the wing sprint car world that these cars are very safe, and there's a lot of room, and that wing absorbs a lot of that. So, it's been a great event. I enjoyed doing it, but it's not something that you're probably never going to see Donny Schatz' name on the Chili Bowl trophy. But I'm okay with that. I got my forte. I like what I do, and midgets probably isn't something that I'm going to make a common thing with.
Well, you will see Donny Schatz' name on the Jackson Nationals trophy. You won that earlier this month, $40,000 payday, and I know that that's a track that kind of holds a special place in your heart. You went there a lot growing up. How special was that victory?
When you go to these racetracks, when you're from this area and you want to go race with the Outlaws, you got, back in the day we had Red River Valley Speedway and Grand Forks raced on Friday nights, so it was one or the other you could go to. Saturday nights you had Cedar Lake Speedway and Jackson Speedway and Knoxville Raceway. Sunday nights were Sioux Falls. That's kind of was the weekly racing regime for me, other than when they had stuff going on during the week or specials. So I got a lot of laps at Jackson. I got a lot of laps at Cedar Lake, a lot of laps here or there. And anytime you get to go to those places, when you come to an outlaw show, it's pretty incredible. Anybody that hasn't been to Jackson, there's a lot of history there at the fairgrounds. It's been a lot of great things happen. But what they've done is taken a fairgrounds facility and they've made it a state-of-the-art NASCAR facility for the fans, for the racers, for everyone. So to see somebody put that much passion and effort into a facility like that in this day of age is pretty awesome, and glad to be able to win that event.
You're the points leader, chasing a 10th title. That a big milestone for you? Title number 10?
Absolutely. Nothing's going to be more important than that first one. I think that first one is definitely always going to sit as probably the most important one to me. But you're only as good as you were yesterday, and our goal, just because you win a championship, is only to win the next one. We've got ourselves in a great position. We've had a great year. We've had a little adversity. I've got a couple crew guys that we've dealt with some health issues and some injury, which is something we haven't had to deal with in the past. So very proud of my guys for how they've overcome that, how we've rallied together as a team and tried to get ourselves in the winner's circle a few times. And Mother Nature's won more than anybody, but we'll see if we can't change that by the end of the year.
Donny, appreciate the time. Good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Donny Schatz, class act, good guy. racing at the night before the Kings Royal tonight out of Rossburg, Ohio. We got more racing to do here at Dacotah Speedway in Mandan. Street stock features coming up next here on Midco SN. About set for our street stock feature. Row 1, Nathan Mesmer and Kelly Harner. Row 2 is Jason Berg and Matt Brendel. That's the car you like in the 46. That's Cole Trickle's paint job. Jeff Hellman and Matt Dosh in row 3 with Alan Frederick and Zach Frederick in row 4. Barrett Berg and Wyatt Rath Wald in row 5. Row 6 has Shawn Volk and Scott Gardner, Monty Gwalik, Tanner Dosh, Jason Meidinger, Emily Mundahl, Brad Kettermans, Hunter Damagala, and John Feiss making up the 10th row as we are set to go and the green flag is out here in your street stock main event. 17 cars making the call here tonight. Going into turn 1, it's Herner with the early lead. Here comes Jason Berg on the outside in the 46. Going 3, 4 wide. Boy, one car went really wide there coming out of turn 3. That was a 96 of Wyatt Rath Wald. He lost about 4 spots. Pretty good battle there for second between Berg and Jeff Hellman in the 54. Zach Frederick in the 5F right on their tail. Three wide again going into turn number 1. That's certainly the race to watch right now for second, third, and fourth. Herner leads by about 0.8 of a second. Ooh, a couple cars getting a little bit loose that time. Hellman flying in front of a couple of competitors and into second place. Three laps down, 17 remain here on your street stock feature. Whoa, the 46 of Jason Berg off the track. And to drive that thing back over the berm and on, Chris. You know, took a little air there, it looks like, even a little bit.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about having the track so far away from the front stretch, the wall, is you can fall off the track, stay in the gas, and jump right back on, and you hardly lose any positions.
Meanwhile, Hellman is on the move, trying to take the top spot away from Kelly Herner, who has led the first 5 laps. Hellman down the back straightaway, neck and neck with Herner going into turn 3. Don't count out the 5F of Frederick. He's right in the mix as well. Herner kind of getting pushed out a little bit into the top groove that time by the 54 of Hellman. They continue to battle for the top spot.
That track prep has provided some side-by-side racing that it took a little time to work up the track, but it has produced a lot of side-by-side racing in this A main.
Hellman now into the lead. A couple of weeks ago did not finish in the feature at Dickinson and Southwest Speedway, and we have a car off and tumbled over coming out of turn 1, and the red flag is out. Trucks and medical crew over to take a look to make sure that car's okay. And there's another car smoking you see there in turn number 4 as well. There's a slight look at it. Shawn Volk. Shawn Volk kind of took a tumble. And he's going to be okay, and that's certainly good to see. Volk.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of that, and he tumbled pretty hard. I'm guessing he fell off the track like we were talking about earlier, and when he was coming back on the track, either something hooked or something, or maybe got into another car, and I saw about two rollovers. I mean, that was And any rollover is tough in a race car, but in a stock car, that's 2 rollovers. That's hard.
There's your leader, Jeff Hellman. Boy, it's been a really good battle between Herner and Hellman at the top, and then the guy that is just kind of creeping in the background is the 5F of Zach Frederick. He's been staying right with the leaders. There's a look at Zach. Shawn Volk does have a win here in street stocks here at Dacotah Speedway back on June 22nd. Tough break for him. And here are your street stock standings. You saw Volk just take a tumble. He's in second behind the 5F of Frederick. Hellman in fourth, Wyatt Rathwald in fifth, Feist, Dosh, Brandon Barrett, Alan Frederick, and Matt Brendel.
Yeah, Frederick he's just kind of hanging out, sitting in third, keeping himself out of trouble. He's got 12 laps to go to make something happen. Maybe he's thinking, if the leaders, get together, maybe he can sneak by. Maybe the leaders are going to work themselves out of their, their setup. They'll drive too hard and mess up and overwork the tires or whatever, and he'll just, slide right in. And maybe he's giving it all he's got. And the 2 leaders are fast.
It's tough to make, again, with those 2 guys side by side, just so tough to make room for yourself to even make a pass. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with just kind of laying in the weeds for a while.
Yeah, especially when it's a 20-lap race. There's 12 to go. There's plenty of time left. You don't want to wait too long, but you also don't want to, show your cards yet.
Frederick does have a win here at Dacotah Speedway back on June 15th. Also runs regularly out at Southwest Speedway in Dickinson, North Dakota. He lives in Richardton, great town of Richardton, North Dakota. About 30 miles outside of Dickinson to the east. Still trying to get things cleaned up over there in turn 1. Kind of a tricky spot near pit road there. They're trying to get things hooked up and haul that vehicle off. All the cars ready to fire and go. 8 laps gone, 12 remain. Well, as they continue to clean up the wreck, looks like a lot of work to do as they try to get that car jacked up. We'll step aside and be back here at Dacotah Speedway for the conclusion of the street stock main event here on Midco SN. They got the number 8 car of Shawn Volk on the wrecker and off the track into the infield. Looks like some pretty significant damage to that vehicle. And the street stocks are fired up. They're lined up. And they'll take the green flag next time around. After the conclusion of this race, the only one that remains is the 50-lap main event. The legendary 50. Winner gets $10,000. Filed up, ready to go. Bring him to the green flag is Jeff Hellman, and we're underway. Pretty good restart, but at the tail end of the field, we have a car around and spun out in turn number 2. I will bring out the yellow flag. Not a lot of real estate there going into turn number 1 and 2, and just going a little bit too hard. Got a little loose and lost it. So Matt Dosh, running 5th, started 5th out of Lincoln, North Dakota, will tag the tail end of the field. Hellman continues to lead. We did not get a lap in there, so still 12 to go.
And you got to think in a situation like that, the drivers, probably thought that the track was going to still have moisture up there. The track's probably drying out a little bit. So he went into the corner like he was, 5 minutes ago, and the moisture just wasn't there anymore, and around it goes.
Flagman giving the field the 1 to go before we go green sign. There's a look at the 54 of Hellman. Frederick had a really good start there too, shot into second place. Hellman does have a 3rd place finish at Dacotah Speedway here on June 22nd. He also has a 9th place finish on the 15th. Still looking for a win. Hellman takes him to green. Frederick again, a really good start on the inside. Herner not trying to give up that position. Side by side. Everybody through clean. And 1 lap in the books. Frederick has taken over the 2nd position from Kelly Herner. Boy, still 3 wide, 4 wide as the battle for 5th and 6th goes. Boy, the 46 of Berg almost off the track again.
You can see 2 distinct lines. You got very top and the very bottom. A couple cars are side by side, but nobody's really running that middle of the track. It's the very top and the very bottom.
Frederick putting the pressure on. Frederick going to continue to run that high line. He's found something up there. Now trying to go underneath Hellman on turn 1 and 2. And Hellman still holding off the charge here of Frederick, but not sure how much longer he's going to be able to do that.
Frederick may have played a little poker with him, showed the bottom, showed Jeff that bottom was faster, and as soon as Jeff went to block the bottom, he goes right back to the top.
Well, he's definitely right on his bumper. Can he make the pass? On the outside, Frederick has a run going into turn 3. Side by side, 6 laps to go. Your new leader is the 5F of Zach Frederick with 5 to go. Hellman trying to hold on. Matt Brendel in 4th. And how about Wyatt Rath-Wald has made his way all the way back up to 5th and now passing Brendel for 4th. Pretty good run after Rath spun out earlier in the race. Two laps to go. He's extended the lead now to 7/10 of a second over Hellman. And Hellman seems fine in 3 and 4, Chris, but in 1 and 2 he loses a lot of ground.
Yeah, he the bottom's a lot quicker in 1 and 2, or 3 and 4, and it's almost like the very top. Now he just moved up to the top to follow.
White flag is out, 1 to go. Zach Frederick into the final turn. Riding in the middle. And he will hold off Jeff Hellman to pick up the victory in the street stock feature here tonight. Herner comes home 3rd, Rathwald 4th, and Brendel just over Hunter Damagla for 5th and 6th. Jason Berg coming home 7th with Scott Garner, Matt Dosh, and Barrett Berg rounding out your top 10. There's Frederick. Coming up with another victory. He's been the #1 guy here all season long at Dacotah Speedway. Leads the points, and he will make his way to victory lane. He talks about playing poker. He went high, went low, and then finally kind of really seemed to have Hellman guessing. And at the end of the day, you can't block him for 10 laps. I mean, he's a tough guy. He was the fastest car tonight.
Yeah, you could tell he wanted to run the top, and Hellman kept sliding up, kind of almost blocking his momentum coming out of the corners. So Frederick went to the bottom, even though he knew it wasn't the fastest way, went to the bottom, and Hellman saw him go to the bottom, so Hellman goes down to block. He goes up to the top, and then the rest is history. Veteran move right there.
Zach Frederick out of Richardton coming up with the victory. Here's a look at your results for your Dacotah Speedway Street Stocks feature. Frederick and Hellman 1 and 2. Herner, solid race, coming home 3rd, was never seriously challenged for that 3rd position. Rathwald had a good run. Again, he had trouble early in the feature and made his way back up through the field to finish in the top 5. Brendel 5th, Damagla, Berg, your favorite car in the field, the Cole Trickle 46 City Chevrolet car. Scott Gardner in 8th, and Matt Dosh coming home 9th with Barrett Berg, the 44 coming home in 10th. In victory lane, taking home the trophy. And kind of spends some time, splits his time between Richardson, heading out to Dickinson, and then coming out here to Dacotah Speedway as well. Runs at both tracks. Kelly Stewart will try to catch a word with him here in just a moment as they continue to start work on the track again. We'll try to do more track prep before the 50-lap main event. There's a look at Frederick. He's kept it nice and smooth, really didn't make any mistakes, no bobbles, and just didn't really give Hellman that opening he needed. And Kelly Stewart is standing by with tonight's Street Stock feature winner.
It's pretty slick. It's kind of hit and miss, and just trying to hit that little groove that there was, and that's about all I could do.
A few restarts in there. How key were those?
I guess it made me more confident to try the top, so that was pretty important. So.
Well, you ended up taking the lead with 5 laps. And then, or was it kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna.
He was just going to start driving harder and screwing up, but I didn't know if he was right behind me or where he was, so I just kept running it.
All right, well, thank you so much. Congrats on the win.
Thank you.
Guys.
Zach Frederick, your feature winner, taking home another victory, the points leader here at Dacotah Speedway in Mandan.
4.
We'll step aside as track prep continues. Water on the track, farm machinery out there. 50 laps remain here on Midco SN. Back here live at Dacotah Speedway. Driver introductions are complete. Bellick, Walla, and Strand will start on that front row as all the cars are now on the grid on the Speedway, and they will climb in, fire them up, and get going here any minute. some drivers have been waiting a long time for this, Chris, just because last year's show was rained out. You know, they've wanted their shot at this event, and now they got it.
Yeah, it's too bad, you know, you can't fight Mother Nature. When Mother Nature wants to play, you kind of got to let her play.
And we've seen that even with many of the national touring circuits. World of Outlaw, case in point, they've already had 16 rainouts already this season, which we talked to Donny Schatz about. He said that's the most I can remember through the first 3 months of the season.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, a lot of these drivers, they're like with the touring series, they drive to the track, so they have the expense of going to the track with fuel and all, you know, hotels and all that, driving to the track, and then they don't get to race. So they pack up, they drive to the next track, and they load up, they don't get to race. So a lot of these traveling guys in the modifieds, they drove here from last year and, you know, didn't get to race, and that's tough financially on them. So they want to come back and win, you know, the grand prize, 10 grand to win, and, you know, pay for a little bit of their expense from last year too.
Well, speaking of which, there's a familiar name on the top of the board in victory lane at the night before the Kings Royal out at Rossburg, Ohio at Eldora Speedway. Donny Schatz running away from the field by over 2 seconds over second place Greg Wilson to take home that A-main feature. Of course, the big show tomorrow night, the Kings Royal, $50,000 to the winner.
A little fun fact, Donny Schatz is, I believe his average finish is like 3.5 in all of the oh no, I lied, it was like 7 something in all of his Kings Royals in his career. Pretty remarkable stat.
You know, people forget that every driver has to start somewhere. And I remember talking to Donny last year at Knoxville, and he goes, people forget that I finished 6th in the E-Main in my first ever Knoxville Nationals. Now, the E-Main, think about that. That is the lowest race you can race in on Saturday, Chris.
Yes, it is.
You've always at least made the D-Main.
I was, my first one, I was in the E-Main, and I believe I was less than that, or like higher than that. So, but no, it's tough. I mean, Donny Schatz is in the E-Main, or was in the E-Main.
When he was 15 years old.
Yep. And I believe he finished like 5 times in second place before he finally got his first Knoxville Nationals feature.
Fun little fact about you, when I was at the Knoxville Nationals and you were still driving a sprint car, you were in 3rd place on your qualifying night. 1 lap to go, looking like you're going to be into the main event in the A-Main, and they throw a yellow flag. None of us can figure out why. It's because the ambulance had to leave the track for an emergency. On the restart, you got bumble-carded by a couple different guys. You ended up finishing 6th. That's just how fast you can go from being on the highest high to the lowest low.
I've been trying to forget that moment, so I appreciate you bringing it back up.
You know, I brought that up to my wife, Chris, and she goes, well, it sounds to me like the person that had it worse was the guy that needed the ambulance.
Yeah.
So she kept it in perspective anyway.
At the time, I was so mad about that, but you got to hope for safety, and you're glad, you know, that you can put, you know, your fun, you know, on pause while somebody else is getting taken care of. And
absolutely. Here's your starting grid. Rows 1 through 5 for your legendary 50. Eddie Bellick, Jason Wallace, Shawn Strand, 2 North Dakotans on the front row. Tom Berry Jr., Hunter Marriott, and R.C. Whitwell. In row 2, Casey Arneson, Tim Ward, Jeremy Keller. In row 3 with Drew Christensen, Billy the Kid Kendall, and Justin O'Brien in row 4. Ricky Thornton Jr. has a lot of room and a lot of cars to pass to get to the top of the field. The 2015 Dacotah Modified Tour champion. Stephen Pfeiffer looked really good in his heat race. The 5J of Jeff Taylor also in row number 5. Dylan Gopelin, Ethan Dotson, and Marlon Seidler, the veteran, out there in row number 6. Kelly Shirek looked very good in his B main, but he's got a lot of room to go past some cars. Mark Dahl, Marcus Tomlinson, Hank Berry, Jared Carter, and Kyle Brown will make up row number 8. Zach Olson, Josh Rogotsky, and Lance Mario in row 9. Les McClanahan, Cody Peterson, and Alex Stanford making up row number 10. In the final row is Aaron Turnbull, Miles Tomlinson, and Travis Ulmer. Cars have fired. The track looks like it's in pretty decent shape. They got the big old RV out there, the Pace RV. I've never seen that before. And they'll get set for green here momentarily. I'm really looking forward to the start of this race, just to see how everything plays out.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting, very exciting for sure. The first couple laps until they start to sort each other out, and it still may be a little bit greasy. So watching out so the cars don't slide into each other and take each other out. They might be a little. The front cars might be a little hesitant going into the first corner, and maybe the guys in the back are going to be a little bit more aggressive and take a little bit more chances because they got nothing to lose sitting in the back of the pack.
And again, this is a long race, Chris. 50 laps. We'll just click them off one by one. And you have to figure that at least a third of this field may not even finish the race, whether it's mechanical failure, spin outs, or some other collision.
Yep. And sometimes, if you're running back in, I don't know exactly how the payout goes, but if you're running back in 33rd, or let's even say 28th or so, it doesn't pay to pass. Like, let's say you pass 10 cars, so the pay is still the same. Some guys just pull off. Like, if they're going to get 15th or they're going to get 28th, to them it's the same thing. It's the same pay. They're just going to pull off and save their equipment. Me, I was never one of those guys. I always like to finish.
You push it to the brink no matter what.
I always like to finish.
We talk about the differences with A mains and all the differences between some of the B mains, and we talked about some of the suspension stuff earlier.
Well, there are some differences between the cars themselves. Everybody runs a spec tire, so that's similar between everybody. There's either a spec motor or an open motor. The guys with a 2-inch wicker bill or spoiler on the back of their car has a spec motor. The guys that don't have that wicker bill have an open motor. In the beginning of the race, that open motor is going to be the way to go. You're going to want that open motor. If you can run half the race with an open motor and half the race with the spec motor,
a crate motor,
it would be very, very beneficial to have a pit stop halfway, put the spec motor in or the crate motor in after halfway through the race when the track dries off a little bit.
Well, you talk to guys that drive both A mains and B mains, A mods and B mods, Chris, and they've all kind of said the same thing. It really isn't a huge difference. The biggest difference is the A mod steers better in the corners. Like you really, because with the suspensions, you can really steer the car more so than in a B mod where you kind of just have to put the rear end out there.
Yep. And you can tell like the guys are very aggressive. They're very consistent. There hasn't been a lot of cautions, knock on wood, but it's been a very, very, good race, caution free and all the way up to the A main here.
All the cars are getting the signal for one lap until the green flag drops. Bellick, Walla, and Strand in the front row will take the field to green. There's a look at the 99 of Strand. He'll certainly be a player, and you can see even the way Strand, watch the rear end of that car when he turns it. Much like a late model, Chris. That's what it reminds you of, the way he's able to do that with the suspension.
Yep, and the reason they do that, so the left rear will actually pull towards the left front there, and that helps the car turn easier. It's almost like a Dixie cup. If you put a Dixie cup, it makes the car turn a lot easier when that tire is a lot further, and it also puts weight on that right front tire. So that allows the car to plant on the right front to help the car turn in the corner as well.
Looks like they're still packing some tracks down. They haven't given the green signal, so the cars will continue to try to get the track worked in. It looks pretty good right now, Chris. It really does.
It looks very good, but to us and to the drivers is a completely different deal. The drivers might see a spot on the track where it's just a little bit greasy yet, and they want the track to be perfect before they actually, send them green and go full throttle here.
We got drivers from Colorado, North Dakota, Oregon, Missouri, Arizona, Iowa, Arkansas, California, Montana, Saskatchewan, all over the place to come here and participate in this event. They are saluting the fans with a parade lap before they drop the green and compete for 50 laps. $10,003 to the winner. Highest ever payout in North Dakota Modified history. Culminates the week of the Dakota Modified Classic Tour. 8 races and 8 nights for a lot of these guys all over the region, and we're set to go. Everybody into the first turn. So far, so good. The leader of the first lap is Strand. Walla in second, followed by R.C. Whitwell. Casey Arneson all the way up to fourth. Good start for the Fargo native. Not a great start for Eddie Bellick, who started on the inside of row 1 and has dropped back to 5th. Oh, we have cars around and trouble in turn number 2. That looks like Billy the Kid, I believe. Billy the Kid Kendall in the 9 got spinned around.
You could see Bellick when he was going in the corner, that left front locked up. So I would say he's just a little bit tight in the beginning of the race here.
There's Bellick, just got maybe helped a little bit that time by Seidler, but looked like Kendall got her sideways and just couldn't recover. Tough break for Kendall, who had a pretty good starting spot.
Looks like there's a lot of drivers moving forward here when the track is nice and has a lot of moisture left in it. And some drivers are moving back. You know, they're more set up for the end of the race than they were at the beginning of the race. And some of these other drivers are hoping to get up to the front. And then if they lose a couple spots, but they pass, 5 and they lose 2, they call that a win.
Now the hard part is trying to get everybody lined back up, Chris. Guys not exactly sure who they passed, who they didn't.
The good thing about the technology nowadays, they have receivers. So every driver has an earpiece that they can listen to, and they start numbering off cars. They'll say like 99 and 1. They just go all the way down the list, so you know exactly where you are on the track. Sometimes you don't agree with it. You just got to go with it.
And it's always interesting to me to see drivers that are competing, even for 8th, 9th, or whatever, will go wheel to wheel and won't give up that spot to the other guy unless they're told to. Yep. I always find that interesting in any race, that some guys will not give up the spot unless they're told to give it up by the race official.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's a last completed lap. So you may have just passed a guy in turn 1 and 2 and led him for a whole lap coming out of turn 4, and then all of a sudden the caution comes out. And you're like, you know what? I was in front of him for a whole lap. Well, no, you passed him in turn 1, and you didn't actually cross the start-finish line ahead of him. So you go to the last completed lap, which you were behind that other car. So I've done it. I've been known to pull up next to a car that I thought I was in front of, and sometimes you just try to get a free position. I've also done that as well too.
Well, one guy that has not moved up is Hunter Marriott, who started in the 5th position, and he's dropped back a couple of spots now to 8th. But again, long race. 48 laps remain, 2 in the books. There's a look at the 62 of Marriott.
Yeah, it's, once the track starts to dry out, the drivers will start picking paces, and
we're back underway. Strand continues to lead. Good start there for Wall on the inside of Strand going into turn 3. A couple of North Dakota natives duking it out there at the front of the pack. Arneson remains in 3rd, 4th now as he got passed by Bellick. Now Marriott starting to make a move. He's up to 5th. Thornton Jr. has made a tremendous run. He's all the way up to 5th. He started 13th. Mark Dahl is up to 12th as well. Bellick has slipped back to 7th. The lead for Walla about a second right now. How about Arneson?
Yeah, he's moving it. He's making that bottom work. There's 3 grooves coming out of turn 3 and 4, and it looks like there's 2 grooves in 1 and 2, and it's producing a lot of side-by-side racing.
Arneson's moved into second, passing Strand. Whitwell and Thornton making up the top 5. Marriott right now running 7th. 8 laps to go. Or excuse me, 8 laps in, 42 to go. Lap traffic not a factor yet, but you'd have to figure in the next 5 or 6 laps it will be, Chris.
Yeah, once it hit lap traffic, then it's then you don't have a clean track in front of you, and you got to start playing the defensive game.
Ten laps down, 40 to go. There's a lot of cars in the back of the pack, Chris. I'd say 10 or 12 that are going to be a problem here momentarily for Jason Walla.
Yeah, he'll have to switch up his position. He's got a pretty good rhythm going right now. But once the lap cars come into play, you got to start moving around the lap cars, going wherever they're not.
Arneson continues to run second, Strand in third, but Thornton is really putting the pressure on here. Cars going about 70 to 75 miles an hour as they're heading into turn 1. Thornton has moved into 3rd place past Shawn Strand. Boy, what a remarkable drive for the 20T who started 13th, Chris.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those drivers you can't count out. There's plenty of time left. He'll be in the hunt in the end.
Walla almost into lap traffic. One car off the pace in the infield. You saw him there momentarily. That's the 5. And they're going to have to bring out a caution. And Thornton did have the second spot. So Thornton will start behind Walla. And Walla's going to have a tough time keeping the 20 RT off him on this next restart. 15 laps gone. 35 remain. There's the 5. Marcus Tomlinson just unable to get off the track. He'll fill it in.
It's almost too bad we were just starting to get into lap traffic, and that would have made a little hairy for Josh. I'm sure Walla was really excited for that caution, and everybody behind him was let out a big groan.
Well, the one thing you'll say at least about Walla, though, is he had passed a couple of lap cars. Maybe he felt like he was in a good rhythm. He maybe would have liked to have kept it green for a little bit longer.
Yeah, you know, and that's one thing. You know, it's 6-1, half dozen of another. When the leader has to pass those lap cars, you should make everybody else pass the lap cars as well. You know, the leader had to go through them, let everybody else go through them as well.
There used to be, that rule changed. I don't know how long it was ago. It's been years now, but used to have the lap cars in between the cars on the lead lap.
It was as a driver, if I'm leading, I want the lap cars in there. Leave a couple more spaces between me and second place. As a fan, I don't know who's in first, well, you know who's in first, but you never know who's in second, where everybody is, because there's lap cars everywhere. It just makes racing just cleaner. It puts second place back on the leader's, you know, fuel tank, and it makes it more exciting for the fans. And really, ultimately, that's what it's about. It's the drivers can come out here, but without the fans, you know, coming and spending their hard-earned dollars out at the racetrack, and sponsors coming out and spending their hard-earned dollars sponsoring the race cars and the racetrack. If it's not exciting, you're not going to come. You're not going to do it again.
There's a look at Walla, who's led pretty much every lap here so far in this 50-lap feature. And you'll notice initially they get into a single file to make sure everybody knows what their position is before they bunch back up into double formation. Of course, the leader gets his own row.
Yep.
So Walla will take him to green. 35 to go. Keep an eye on the 20 RT of Ricky Thornton. Walla going low. He knows that's where Thornton wants to go, and he holds him off. Boy, really good start that time for Whitwell, who went on the outside and passed a handful of cars up to third. Thornton may have the lead coming out of turn number 4, and he does by just 0.02 of a second. Thornton sticking to the bottom. Wallace slides up the top. Hunter Marriott making a move. He's moved up to 6th, so his eyes on 5th or even 4th place. There's Thornton, your leader. Strand has dropped back to 4th or 5th now as Arneson makes a pass. And Thornton just continues to hug that bottom, Chris, and I'm assuming he's just going to stay there until it's gone.
Yeah, why change something if it's working? He's able to stay on the bottom. He's getting a lot of good drive coming out of the corner, and if it's working, stay with it.
$20 down, 30 to go. Marriott has now moved into 4th place. He just passed Arneson as well. So here comes the Tour champion making his move. And a caution.
This could be the caution for that pit stop.
That's correct.
You can change the air pressure in the tire, you just can't replace that tire. Here we go.
So here come all the teams now, and you see a lot of them have their stuff as they've been watching from the infield, and they'll line them up.
So they can change the air pressure. They can add or subtract air.
Yep.
but they cannot change the tire. They can't take the tire off to do spacing. So it looks like they can adjust the air, and that's about it.
Well, as they line up and start making whatever adjustments they want here for the final 29 laps, we will step aside and be back for the very exciting conclusion of the legendary 50 here at Dacotah Speedway on Midco Sports Network. There's a look at Ricky Thornton Jr. out of Cliva, Iowa. Finished 4th in the Dacotah Classic Modified Tour standings. He was the champion in 2015, and he won the legendary 50 in 2016. So that's a guy you certainly recognize as a threat here tonight, and he's done an impressive job starting way back in the field and moving up into the top spot here. And he's in the position you want to be with 29 to go.
Absolutely. He knows his way around the track. Like you mentioned, he's a past champion. Last year we didn't have one because of Mother Nature, so he's actually the reigning legendary 50 champion, and he knows what he's doing. It doesn't look like they're doing a lot of work on the car, so he must feel very confident in the car. Rehydrating, get a little water, and talking about it with his crew guys, seeing what they see versus what he sees on the track.
What kind of strategy are you talking about with your crew guys at this point? Are you talking about lines you want to run, how the car feels?
Yep, yeah, I would. Whenever I got to talk to my dad or my brother with racing, you would always ask where everybody else is driving. Like, can I enter higher? Can I enter lower? Where's the fast guys running? Is there something I'm not seeing? No, you're doing a great job, or no, you're doing a horrible job. You don't have any rear view mirrors in these cars, so you don't know how everybody else is going or where they're going. You don't know if you're pushing too hard. So you tell your driver or your crew guys too, it's like, hey, I was pushing it as hard as I could. That's all it had. Or I had more left. This isn't everything I had. So you don't want to show all your hands either. You want to go just fast enough where the guy behind you doesn't pass you, and then make them, work a little harder and pass little cars as well.
I don't think that's maybe a little dangerous right now is to tweak too much when you look at like suspensions or those sorts of things. You probably just don't want to do too much because the track is going to be what it is right now for the remainder of the race.
Yeah, the track it'll dry out a little bit more. Just nature of the beast, as a race wears on, the track will dry out a little bit. Looks like Walla's changing a little bit of suspension on his right front. Looked like another driver was changing his right rear suspension. As long as they don't take the tire off, they're really allowed to do, whatever they want. And some drivers...
And adding a little bit of fuel, all fuel, that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Josh, he was really good in the beginning. Then he started, he didn't fade. He fell back to second, but he maybe felt better when it was wetter. And as the track dried off, he was getting worse. So he told his crew guys, hey, the car's going away. The track's going to go away. We need to adjust twice as much as what we thought we were going to.
And this is one of the unique things about this race and a couple of other races. You don't see it very often is very few dirt tracks of any kind run long enough races where you have to have a pit stop of some kind. But that certainly factors in when you're changing up a car and the feel of a car, midway through the race. It's just very unique.
Yeah, the best sprint car crew chief is Carl Kinzer, and he was so good whenever they had a caution at not fixing the car, but adjusting the car to how the track is changing, because you can never guess how the track is exactly going to change. So having a good crew chief or a good driver that can talk to each other and make that adjustment, it's really fun to watch. Like, who's going to come in, that's maybe they're sitting in 6th or 7th and came in and adjusted after this caution, and they may come and win it from 6th or 7th place. Just having the know-how of what the track's going to do, it's almost like a do-over. You get another shot to get it right.
I think the even more fun part is when the crew chief and the driver don't agree. And you've been a part of that as well.
I've been a part of that, and It's one of those things. I was lucky enough where I had a very smart, crew chief with my dad and my brother. So those two guys, my brother used to race, so he knew what the car was doing. My dad knew how to fix it and make the car how to fix whatever my brother was saying, and I could talk to my brother. So we had a different scenario. So sometimes my dad would tell me go to the top, and I said, nope, I'm going to the bottom, and ended up on top because that's the way he set me up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what adjustments, what little tweaks they can make, and really the team that can make maybe the best adjustments. You talked about it, Chris, and we saw Ricky Thornton come from 13th all the way to 1st in just 21 laps. So it's no reason to think there isn't a car maybe that's sitting even 10th or 12th that can't move to the front here in the next 29.
Yeah, it took 21 laps, and he went from 13th to the lead. Why can't somebody in 15th, after some adjustments, go from 15th to the lead in 29 laps? Didn't look like Ricky did a lot of adjustments, so he's probably pretty confident in his car and filled it up with fuel, filled himself up with water, and throw the belts back on and get after it.
Waller remains in second. Whitwell had a really good restart on that last caution before we took this one. And then Hunter Marriott was kind of lurking in 6th, 7th, and he's all the way up to 4th now, so he's certainly in position to come away with the victory as well. Casey Arneson from Fargo is in 5th, and Shawn Strand, who started on the front row right now, has dropped back a few spots to 6th. So we'll see what kind of adjustments maybe Strand makes since he knows this track so well.
Yeah, and that's one of the big not features, big perks of running here weekly or bi-weekly or even a couple times a year is the track. You know that it's going to keep moisture in turn 3 and 4. You know to run the bottom. You know there's a little whoop section going into 1 and 2. The track. You know the history of the track. You know what it's going to do. So that plays a part too. It's like, hey, the track's going to take rubber, so let's set up for rubber. These guys they've all raced on it. The guys that are local, they have a little bit more of an advantage.
Well, it looks like everybody is squared away. Cars are starting to refire here and starting to take off now to finish the final 29 laps of this legendary 50 main event here at Dacotah Speedway. You can really see right there on that shot a little bit of moisture, but not a ton left there, anywhere towards the middle or high end of the track. You really got to either way up on the cushion or way down low.
Yeah, there's a little bit in the middle of the track, and to me that's just you drive in nice and easy, and that'll keep you from sliding all the way to the top. You don't want to slide into that hard. You just kind of want to drive into it. If you've been running the bottom and you tried to pass a car on the outside and it doesn't work, that middle groove, that may just save you, from going all the way to the very top of the track. But there are two distinct grooves right now, a very top groove and a very bottom groove.
Well, we'll see what happens after all the adjustments have been made. Again, they will get back in their position that they came into this pit stop with before they bunch up and drop the green. Well, Billy the Kid Kendall, again, he had the only caution where he spun around and had to go to the back of the field, and he's already passed about 10 cars to get back in decent position. He's in the top 15. And drivers will almost know immediately too, Chris, if the adjustments they've made were the right ones, right? I mean, they're going to have a pretty good understanding the first couple of laps how the car feels and whether or not they're in good shape or not.
Yeah, the first lap, I mean, you'll know if you made a good choice or not. What you're going to want to do, like in the first lap, if the car's a little bit tight, a little bit tough to steer, that's good. Because the track's only going to get worse. The track's going to get drier. You want to be a little bit tight in the beginning here because by the end, then your car will be perfect. If you're perfect now, the car will fade towards the end.
Well, we'll find out who gets it done. Looks like all the cars are under fire. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be. Well, they should just kind of put them together, get them lined up over the next lap or two, and we'll drop the green for the final 29 laps.
You can really see how shiny the track looks. That's really, really slick and really sealed over, they call that. So the track is very hard, it's sealed over, and it's like an ice rink.
All right, cars getting lined up. One more time around before they drop the green flag. Ricky Thornton Jr. will bring the field to green.
It's wide, it's fast.
Thornton Jr., Walla, Whitwell, Marriott, Arneson, your top five. Strand in 6, Tim Ward, Tom Berry in the 11X. Also having a pretty good drive so far. Up to 8th. Jeremy Keller in 9th. Good run for the local Mandan product. Justin O'Brien, Ethan Dodson, Kelly Shirek has moved up quite a bit. He started back in 20th, moves up to 12th. Eddie Bellick started on the front row. He has dropped to 13th. Marlon Seidler and Kyle Brown make up your top 15. Here we go. Everybody clean through turns 1 and 2. Arneson up to 3rd, had a really good restart. Marriott slips back to 5th. Tim Ward in the 4TW has moved up to 6th as well. Pretty good job for the yellow 4TW there, who is challenging both Marriott and Whitwell there for the 4th position. Thornton Jr. and Walla continue to lead. Arneson in 3rd. Marriott starting to make a move now as he is right on the fuel tank of Casey Arneson. Boy, another man on the move is Jeremy Keller, all the way up to 7th now. Has found something in the outside he likes and has picked off a few cars. Here comes Walla, and we have a spin in turn number 1. That is the X car of Josh Rogatsky from Sanborn, Minnesota. Here's another look at the X. Yeah, he was battling for position there with Billy Kendall. That sent him off flying, and also another car kind of tangled up there as well, the 19 SB of Lance Murray. So some sheet metal damage to that machine. Not sure how much else got damaged. There's a look at Thornton. See if Walla has anything for him here. Arneson continues to hold on to third, but Marriott really putting the pressure on. Whitwell has fallen back to fifth. I'll tell you what, got to be impressed with Keller.
I was just going to mention that. Keller's moved his way up. All the way up to 7th now.
And Bellick had fallen back to 13th, and now he's back to 9th. So whatever adjustments he may have made on his car seems to be working.
Yeah, the track's drying out a little bit more. There's still quite a bit of moisture coming out of 4 on about a groove up on the very bottom. And that's kind of right where Ricky has been running, coming out of turn 4. He's right on the guardrail in 1 and 2. And there's a little bit of moisture down there. And then coming out of 3 and 4, he lets the car drift just a little bit. There's a little bit of moisture coming out of 4. And Walla's been just, running about 2/3 the way up, using a lot of momentum, and he's been finding something up there.
So Ricky Thornton Jr. will bring him to green again. Hunter Marriott tried to make a move that time, and he was able to get into 4th place as he battles Whitwell. "22 laps remain of this 50-lap feature. Walla maybe looking to make a move on the inside. Can't make it stick. Hunter Marriott up to 3rd. A little bit of a slide job there from the 62 on Casey Arneson. Here's a run for Walla.
He has definitely found something upstairs.
Just a .1019 differential between Walla and Ricky Thornton Jr. Continue to battle for the lead. Marriott now in sole possession of 3rd. Thornton kind of went up high to try to block him. Walla underneath.
Little contact.
And Walla started high and then kind of slingshotted low. A little bit of a slide job there from Walla coming out of turn 4 and a crossover on the other side from Thornton. Great race for the lead. Oh, and Hunter Marriott almost got in to Walla there in turn 2. Wow, were they close.
Some exciting stuff here, Brian.
17 laps remain. Marriott starting to reel in both leaders.
And Ricky moved up off the bottom. He figured the top was a little faster.
Arneson continues to run 4th. Tim Ward in 5th. Whitwell has fallen to 6th, and Jeremy Keller remaining in 7th. $14 to go. Arneson trying to make a move on the inside that time for Marriott. Well, unless there's a caution, Chris, I'm not sure anybody can catch Ricky Thornton Jr. He's opened up a pretty big lead.
He's put her in overdrive now.
A 1.7 second differential between first and second. Wall in danger of losing second place as Marriott continues to put on pressure.
Lap traffic may become a factor here in about 3-4 laps. That might be the only option they have to catch them.
Yeah, lap traffic has really not been a factor at all in this race. Well, whatever you got left, you got to push it now. 10 to go. If you're saving your tires, time to start using them, right, Chris?
Absolutely. And Ricky's kind of put her into second gear here. He's kind of been pulling away. Ever since Wallace showed his face, he's pulled away.
A 2.5 second lead. And Marriott just cannot get around Walla to make a move. The Big Show holding on to second. Arneson fourth. Thornton easily around a couple of lap cars on the high side. Seven laps to go. Thornton a little more lap traffic to deal with. Still a 2.7 second lead for Ricky Thornton Jr. Thornton around Murray. Walla trying to keep pace. The lead down to 1.6 seconds. So the traffic has been a little bit of an issue here for Thornton, at least allowing some drivers to come back. Two to go. The lead now down to 1 second. Can Walla make up enough ground here in the final lap? White flag is out for Ricky Thornton Jr. Half a lap to go for $10,003. And the Clive, Iowa native has hung on for his second legendary 50 victory. Walla comes home second, Marriott third, Arneson fourth, Ward fifth, and Whitwell sixth. Keller, a good run for him, coming home seventh with Bellick, Tom Berry, and Shirek rounding out the top 10.
It almost looked, Brian, like the track was starting to take a little rubber. I was checking out the lap times or the speed, and they were getting up to about 76 or 75, 76, 77 miles an hour, whereas halfway through the race they were down to about 68. So the track was speeding up. To me, that means that it was getting a little rubber, and And, you know, in that case, everyone's about the same speed, and that kind of looked like it with the lap cars. It was tough to pass them.
Yep. And give credit to Walla and certainly Hunter Marriott, as they were facing a 3-second differential, and with 1 to go, it was down to just 1 second. Who knows, had you had 5 more laps in this thing, what would have happened? But you got to give credit to Thornton Jr. Comes from 13th. He took the lead. Walla gave him a pretty good run there with about 15 to go. And then once he kind of changed his line, Thornton Jr. changed it up a little bit, and that was key.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Once Josh Walla showed his face and showed the fast way around, he just didn't have enough to get around him. And Ricky took advantage and moved up to block and took off from there.
Here are your final results of the legendary 50. Ricky Thornton Jr., Jason Walla, Hunter Marriott. Nice run for Casey Arneson finishing 4th, Fargo native. Tim Ward in the 4TW coming home 5th. RC Whittlewell 6th. Jeremy Keller 7th. Eddie Bellick in 8th. And Tom Barry in the 11X 9th with Kelly Shirek coming all the way up from 20th to 10th. Good run there for the veteran to post the top 10 finish. Thornton Jr. drove the wheels off it. Wasn't afraid to change his line and made the difference. And he's the champ for the 2nd time here in the legendary 50. It's the guy that won the Clash at the Creek in Wisconsin, $10,000 to win this year. So he's cashing in again here in North Dakota.
Yeah, he looked really smooth, really good all day.
My goodness, what a fast race car tonight. We'll talk about it up here in Victory Lane. Should feel the body temp of this guy right now, about 200 degrees in this race suit. Let's get you some water here.
He certainly seemed comfortable all night, that's for sure, Chris.
Yes, he did.
Winner of the legendary 50. He did it the first ever year. He's going to do it again this year. Back-to-back champion.
Here's a look back when Walla and Thornton Jr. were going at a little bit of a slide job there. As Walla was reining him in, they got together briefly. And then on the crossover, Thornton got him back. Hunter Marriott lost control, almost got into the back end of Walla, but ultimately Thornton Jr. kind of figured out the line, was able to weave through enough lap traffic and come up with the victory and take home $10,003. That was a fun race, Chris.
That was a lot of fun. I was a little nervous with the with 11 rows of 3 deep, but everybody made it through, and it was a very exciting race. There was battles from 1st to 33rd. So I mean, it was an exciting modified and street stock race.
Ricky Thornton Jr. wins it again tonight. One more round of applause for Ricky Thornton Jr. down here in the Cooper Chevrolet Victory Lane.
Tim Ward from down in Iowa also had a really good run tonight, coming home 5th. And that closes out a busy week of modified racing here in North Dakota and up in Saskatchewan as well. But between Jamestown, Minot, Williston, Dickinson, Saskatchewan, here in Dakota, that's a lot of racing for these guys. Back to back. It's a lot of work on the cars, and it's a grind.
It is a grind. It's a lot of travel. I mean, there's about a week's worth of maintenance that you're doing on these cars that you have to do overnight. You also have to drive to the next track. It's a grind. These guys are probably pretty excited to be done and get to go, you know, maybe take tomorrow off and Sunday off to relax and catch up.
That was a fun race, no doubt about it.
IMCA Dirt
Kelly Stewart is standing by with our winner. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Brian. Well, first of all, congratulations, $10,000. And it was a 50-lap race with 33 cars. It's going to be congested. You made it look easy. How'd you do it tonight?
Really good car. Kind of just had to pace myself there. We got to the lead there pretty quick, and there with all the restarts, I just kind of had to slow down, hit my lines, and then we were really good there at the end.
Yeah, a few restarts like you mentioned. There was that big pit stop with 29 laps to go. What adjustments did you make, if any?
We didn't make any. We put a little bit of fuel in. I think it was about 4 or 5 gallons. Other than that, we just kind of left it. Really didn't want to screw myself. We were really good, so I figured if I would have done something, I probably would have went a lot slower.
It's not broke, don't fix it. All right, well, you did so well tonight, but was there a turning point that you feel in this race was the difference maker?
Probably there late. Once I got off the bottom, I really didn't know I was going to start rubbering up through the middle. I had my dad down there in turn 3, like screaming at me to move up the racetrack, so I got to give him and Trent down in turn 1 a lot of credit. Without them, I don't think we probably would have won this deal.
All right, well, $10,000 prize. $10,003 actually, to be specific. Any specific plans for the money? You said you got a little boy on the way.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll probably we'll buy some diapers with it and save it, because you never know what could happen.
All right, Ricky, well, congratulations and thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Guys.
That'll buy a lot of diapers, but I can promise you, Ricky, you're going to need them, buddy.
You absolutely will.
Ricky Thornton Jr. got a little advice and a shouting from Ricky Thornton Sr. Sometimes that's what you need to get him to listen, but he drove the wheels off and he comes up with $10,003. He's your legendary 50 winner. We're back to here at Dacotah Speedway in Mandan. After this, it's been a fun night of racing. We hope you've enjoyed it here on Midco Sports Network. See you in a minute. Back here to wrap up our coverage of the legendary 50 here on Midco Sports Network. It's been a fun night at Dacotah Speedway here in Mandan. First chance you and I have had a chance to take in this event. Chris, what'd you think?
It was an awesome event. It was just having 2 classes. I thought it was going to be, a little quick, not a lot of excitement, but it was full of excitement in all the races, the heats, the B mains, there was excitement in it, and then the A main had plenty of excitement for both mods and streets.
Welcome inside the I don't know, what do you want to call it, makeshift broadcast booth here.
That works.
Yeah, we're on the elements, but that's the way racing is supposed to be watched out here in the elements. Brian, Shawn, Chris Shirek with you. Thanks so much for joining us here on Midco Sports Network for this live televised event. That wraps up our live racing coverage of the summer here on Midco SN 2018. We had a pleasure bringing you this race and the one at River City Speedway back on June 29th. We hope we're back with you again next summer for more live racing action, but be sure to catch up all the live, all the taped races, all the other races, all your coverage on Midco Motorsports Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. on Midco SN as well. We appreciate you joining us here this evening, Chris. It was a pleasure again, my man.
Pleasure's all mine. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, for Kelly Stewart and Chris Shirek and our entire Midco SN crew, I'm Brian Shawn saying so long from Dacotah Speedway in Mandan. We hope you enjoyed the legendary 50.